Hi students, I'm excited to share with you the modal verbs practice. Modal verbs are auxiliary verbs and a special kind of verb which are used alongside other verbs. So it's also used to indicate probability, ability, obligation, suggestion or advice, preference, permission, and habits, and the same will be discussed in details further. All modal verbs are auxiliary verbs, which means they can be only used with the main verb. Now, moving on to the different uses of modal verbs, the first is probability, which is if it's present, we use may, and if it is past, we use might. It is used to express future possibility and to give and ask permissions. There is a chance that something is true or that there is a possibility of something happening. Let's take a look at a few examples. The first is, I think he may win the competition. You may only take one brochure. You may leave the table once you have finished the meal. If you have finished the exam, you may leave the room. May I borrow your pen? May I use your washroom, please? On the other hand, might is used more frequently than may in spoken English. Might could also be used to request permission, but it sounds very old and is not common. For example, she might come early. Your phone might be in the kitchen. He might be stuck in traffic. It might rain later today. You might want to avoid traveling through Europe this winter. You might want to catch a taxi. Moving on to the ability, we use can and could to talk about a skill or ability. As a past tense form of the verb can, could is used to express general ability in past tense and indirect speech. For general ability in the present, we use can. For general ability in the past, we use could. Can is used more often when talking with younger ones, whereas could is more polite and is used when talking with elders to give more respect. For example, she can speak French. She could speak French. I can play the piano. I could play the piano when I was younger. Second, it's also used to ask permissions. If it is informal, I should use can. For example, can I borrow your pen, please? Can you pass me the water, please? Can I see your English register, please? Can you forward me the letter from your email, please? On the other hand, if it is more formal, I should use could. Could I borrow your pen, please? Could you pass me the water, please? Could I use your washroom, please? Could you forward me the letter from your email, please? Thirdly, it is also used for requests and orders. For example, can you make a cup of coffee, please? Can you help me with my project, please? Can you put the TV on? Can you come here for a minute? Can you be quiet? If it is more polite, I should use could. Could you make a cup of coffee, please? Could you help me with my project, please? Could you put the TV on? Could you please come here for a minute? It is also used for possibility. For example, it can get very cold on the hills at night. It can be very dangerous to travel at night. If it is possibility in the past, I'll use have with the verb third form. For example, you could have broken your leg. I could have scored more marks if I had studied harder. Moving on to the obligation, we use the modal verbs must, need, and have to. Must, need, and have to in the positive or question form are used to speak about responsibilities, obligations, and important actions. However, must is generally used for strong personal obligations, and have to, on the other hand, is used for responsibilities at work and in everyday life. For example, I must ask Anthony a few questions. I must finish this task right now. They need to study more if they want to get good grades. You need to get up early tomorrow. They will have to arrive early. She will have to attend the presentation. Moving on to the suggestion and advice, I will use shall, should, or ought to. Shall is generally used to show willingness, intention, suggestions. Should, on the other hand, is used for obligations, necessity, expectations, and ought to is used for moral obligations. All that said, shall is simply used more in British English, while should is used more in American English. Ought to is thought to be a little old-fashioned, more formal, and isn't so common in British or American English anymore. For example, shall we go out today? Should I call the doctor? Shall I get some biscuits for you? You should talk to him about it. You ought to apologize her. You ought to go now before it rains. Moving on to desire, preference, and choice, I'll use will and would. If it's present, will, past is would. Will and would are verbs of consequence. Will and would are very common modal verbs of consequence. They help to define what could happen or what definitely will happen if you do something, or help you ask for something that should be done in the future. Will and would can be used for polite requests and habitual routines, as well as for future actions. For example, I will clean my room today. I will accept this job offer. The ship will take 200 guests. I will pass my driving test. I would rather watch movie today. I would like to have more free time. Would you like to join me for a party tonight? If I were you, I would study business management. Moving on to how to use modal verbs to talk about the past, let's start with the may, might. So we use might, have plus the past participle when we want to make a guess about something that happened in the past. Formula will be may or might with have plus verb third form, and if it is negative, may not, or might not have with the verb third form. Let's take a look at few examples. I may have checked the status of my train ticket. I might have asked him a cup of coffee. I may not have gone so late. I might not have told her about the surprise party. Let's talk about could have and could not have. So could have plus past participle means that something was possible in the past, or you had the ability to do something in the past but that you didn't do it. Couldn't have plus past participle, on the other hand, means that something wasn't possible in the past even if you had wanted to do it. Let's take a look at a few examples. I could have played the piano well, but I didn't practice enough. She could have studied literature, but she preferred to become a doctor. I couldn't open the window. She called us because she couldn't find the house. Moving on to the must have or must not have, or if it's a contraction, we can also say mustn't. Again, we use the verb third form, which is past participle, and we use it for necessity. For example, you must have got your eyesight checked. You must have finished your assignment by now. You mustn't eat so much chocolate, you'll get a toothache. You mustn't smoke here. Talking about should have plus past participle or should not, or if it's a contraction, I can say shouldn't. Should have plus past participle can mean something that would have been a good idea, but that you didn't do it. It's like giving advice about the past when you say it to someone else, or regretting what you did or didn't do when you are talking about yourself. Let's take a look at examples here. The train should have left by now. You should have spoken to me before deciding. I shouldn't have interrupted you. You shouldn't have cheated in your exams. Moving on to the will, would with have in the verb third form, or won't or wouldn't if it's contraction with have verb third form. Firstly, we use it with the part of the third conditional. For example, if I had enough money, I would have bought a car. Because would can also be used to show if you want to do something or not, we can also use would have with the past participle to talk about something you wanted to do but you didn't. For example, I will have spent all my money by this time next year. She would have dropped you at the station, but she had other plans. He won't have saved enough money. I wouldn't have attended the ceremony, but she invited me politely. So thank you for watching the video. Keep watching more English grammar videos and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.